Hey there, cats and kitties, I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 11 of the anime series Shingeki no Bahamut Genesis, and talk about, wow, episode. This episode was insane. I thought the cliffhanger for the previous was like Empire Strikes Back level awesomeness, and this episode put it over the top like 100-fold with that. I mean, it just ramped up the stakes, and, you know, everyone is up against it in this episode. Freaking phenomenal. It's like one of the greatest single episodes of an anime ever. At least that's how it left me feeling by the end of it. Of course, we're picking up where we left off with Favreau having been turned demon. You know, essentially Kaiser's left in that stasis nodule, you know, basically to overlook this scene unfolding with abject horror on his face, screaming for Favreau to try to wake him out of it. In this episode, he ends up falling to his doom at least 4 separate occasions, each time just barely getting out of it by the skin of his teeth. Of course, we have some nice twists and turns in this episode. Rita, much as I speculated, has been working on an antidote of sorts for the sorcery, the magic, that turned both Jean d'Arc and, of course, Favreau into these demon forms. And it's amazing watching the unfolding battles ensue. Once, you know, Jean d'Arc basically penetrates Abos, or wherever this is taking place, where all of the angels of heaven have, you know, basically utilized all their powers to keep the dragon Bahamut in stasis. Jean d'Arc ends up coming through and starts basically slaughtering one by one all of the chief archangels. You know, you have Raphael getting attacked. She even attacks the archangel Michael, and it's absolutely amazing that they are all rendered gold dust, much like Amira's mother, the, you know, angelic Nicole, was in front of her own eyes. We basically see that happening with these archangels, and you would think for these, you know, beings to be as powerful as they are, that's actually quite a shock, seeing them taken out so easily by the demon formed Jean. But in fact, we have this battle ensue when Rita and Bacchus, of all people, they're coming in, charging very much in as the cavalry to save the day, or at least effect as much of heroism as they can. And we see this fight take effect between Bacchus and Jean d'Arc, which is just awesome. I mean, you know, those angels are taken out with one hit apiece, but Bacchus is holding his own in the fight against Jean d'Arc, and I just thought the battles in this episode, I mean, they were phenomenal between Bacchus and Jean. You know, basically seeing like the sort of one-upsmanship of Azazel and Kaiser, even though they didn't actually fight. It was more of wits and of words than actual sword fighting and such like that. Kaiser's main objective being to get back to Favreau and try to wake him up out of whatever spell he's under, of course. And it's just really awesome to see all of these different factions, these different components in each of the characters trying to make, you know, some ends in this whole affair, trying to stop and cease the coming free of the dragon Bahamut. The tensions in this episode are just escalating with every step of the way, because of course you have Rita talking about crashing, you know, Bacchus's carriage into the giant vessel that Beelzebub is piloting, and basically bringing forth to Abos to where, you know, the dragon Bahamut is being held in stasis. The idea being they've turned Amira, you know, by sort of putting both of those keys together, they turned it into a transcendent key, that is the God key and the demon key, respectively. They've made Amira transform into this transcendent key, this orb that essentially we see Favreau taking command of, at a point when finally Kaiser and Rita have caught up with him, trying to stop him and everything like that. And he makes off with it and tries to bring it closer to Bahamut, which is the integral piece to this entire affair. Kaiser gets the one-up on Favreau, essentially shooting him right through the chest with an arrow, you know, which is absolutely just, it stunned me, because I've been, you know, championing, hopefully Favreau will come out of this and they'll be able to transform him back from the demon he is. And I still hold out hope that that can happen, because of course we saw Amira calling out his name in the final moments. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Of course, Kaiser is then interrupted before this actually happens with Amira being summoned by this, you know, stone-encased or frozen Bahamut dragon. We see Lavali of the Orleans Knights, the guy we thought at one point was Amira's human father, show up and tell Kaiser, you know, they're basically taking out and effectively destroying the demons and this entire realm and all this stuff like that. And we see down from the heavens, the gods, the warrior gods, if you will, seem to be depositing themselves upon the scene. I'm not exactly sure if that's what's happening or not. But, you know, Lavali definitely seemed like a very suspicious character since the very first time we met him. And even though we were introduced to Martinet, and it seems like that was the character who was leading, you know, Amira around, and suggestively so within the kingdom and all that kind of stuff, I was still very much on my haunches thinking, that Lavali guy, something's up with him. And sure enough, you know, this whole line about the Orleans Knights taking down the demon realm and all this stuff, the flying fortress or whatever it is that they inhabited, bringing this orb, this transcendent key to Bahamut, you know, it's all BS. It's all a lie. And basically, we see Kaiser getting pushed over the edge of one of these observation towers or observation decks on this thing as Amira has been scooped up by the energies of Bahamut. And in those final moments, she recognizes, you know, having looked down at the seemingly lifeless body of Favreau, before she's completely transformed and enveloped by Bahamut, she says, Fava, in a sort of broken manner. And it's like she's calling out to him. And I wonder if her energies, if they can best this, if they can reverse it, if they can do whatever they need to do to put Bahamut back in containment and be able to strip away Amira from that, maybe those energies that inhabit her, you know, those angelic energies, might be able to bring life back into Favreau. I don't know. That's my surmise and my hope. But essentially seeing this unfold where all of our heroes, you know, Rita, Bacchus, Kaiser, even Favreau seemingly being dead, Amira herself being enveloped and sucked into the consciousness, stone-encrusted form of the dragon Bahamut. I mean, all of these characters are set up to fail so badly by the end of this episode, of course. Jeanne d'Arc being only capable of looking on with tears in her eyes once finally, in the midst of the fight between she and Bacchus, the Archangel Michael, who had been, you know, attacked by her and was wounded to the point where she was near death, you know, she basically had that last little capsule that was being carried by Rita to transform, the antidote to transform Jeanne d'Arc back. And we see them, you know, she puts it in her mouth after hugging from behind Jeanne d'Arc's demon form, and she ends up kissing it into Jeanne's mouth, which transforms her back to normal. And all she can do is but plead and cry at the horror of this scenario. You know, they've lost. For all intents and purposes, the dragon Bahamut is becoming freed. Beelzebub has won the day, even though Azazel and he are in the thick of fisticuffs during this entire sequence, and Lavali is there chanting and taunting, you know, this is the greatest feeling in the world, the feeling of, you know, being able to breach sort of complacency or whatever it is that he's talking about. We have all our characters fitted against it. The dragon Bahamut has come, or is coming by the end of this episode, and it does not look well at all for any of our heroes. And so I'm stoked. I cannot wait to see where we go in the final episode of this series, what tables will be turned, newly turned, as we enter the last phase of this particular anime series, which I have to say, thus far has been a whirlwind, not since like BTOOOM, every step of the way, feeling that momentum, and just, it never stopped. You know, every single episode, new twists and turns, new developments, and everything was just so quickly paced, but with a lot of tremendous depth and action and, you know, characterization. Not since BTOOOM has a series so effectively hit all those notes successfully, at least in my opinion, you know, in the last couple of years, as Shingeki no Bahamut Genesis. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 11 of Shingeki no Bahamut Genesis. If you've seen it, were you as wowed as I was with just the absolute hell unfolding in this particular episode? And yeah, so otherwise I hope you enjoyed the video and that it finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.